Now it's time to introduce the chief guest to the audience. I request Dr. Nasrullah Bakhtiari to introduce the chief guest.
Good morning and Assalamu alaikum to one and all here. I feel immense pleasure in introducing the keynote speaker, Professor Vibha Sharma, Department of English, Aligarh Muslim University, Aligarh. She is undoubtedly a genius and a brilliant academician who is interested in theatre and performance studies, translation studies, Indian English studies, cultural studies, environmental humanities, ELT, and she is also interested in contemporary research trends. Professor Vibha Sharma has participated and presented in many national and international conferences, seminars, and workshops. She has a wide range of national and international publications too, in the topics mentioned earlier. She is a visiting faculty in the academic circles of Sweden and Stockholm since 2013. In addition to this, she has received scholarships to visit Germany, Japan, Chile, and Nepal on educational purposes. She has also been awarded scholarships by the RELO American Center in India to take up online courses in Maryland University, USA. She is a deputy coordinator of DRS UGC SAP Phase 2 program on translation studies in the Department of English. She has undergone international projects related to teachers training and literature studies. She is an active participant in theatre productions and is a director of many plays. She is also engaged in creating theatre artists. She has been a resource person for underprivileged learners at AMU under the Regional English Language Office RELO American Center. Introducing a person like Professor Vibha Sharma is a serious task, as it becomes difficult where to stop with, but not on where to start with. Just in few minutes, I have to present her personality, mention her academic achievements, and highlight her contribution, which is made to the society in general and academics in particular. Though I spoke for some time, I still feel that I have left something very valuable and informative. Now I am reminded of a couplet of Dag Dehlavi, which I learnt in Aligarh during my OP days, and I think it is appropriate to quote it at this juncture. हाले दिल कब अदा हुआ पूरा, कुछ कहा भी है, कुछ रहा भी है. It means I have translated this couplet into English. Has the state of heart ever been expressed completely? Something has been said and something has been left. Once again, I wish to express that it is a great privilege to introduce Professor Vibha Sharma, and I also profusely thank her for accepting the invitation to deliver the keynote address in today's conference. आपका बहुत शुक्रगुजार है मैम, पूरा डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ इंग्लिश, अल्फा रिसर्च एकेडमी, आपके मंसूबों को आप जिस तरीके से आप हमारी दरख्वास्त को जो कबूल किया है, हम लोग सब लोग हम आपके शुक्रगुजार हैं. धन्यवाद. थैंक यू वन एंड ऑल.
Thank you, Dr. Nasrullah sir. You have conveyed through the Urdu couplet the esteemed personality of our chief guest. We are sure are honored to have her amidst us. I now take pleasure in inviting our chief guest, Professor Vibha Sharma, Professor of English, Aligarh Muslim University, to deliver the keynote address.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Syed Nasrullah. It is indeed such a generous introduction, and it has definitely burdened me to meet the expectations. So in a way, you have not helped me. Moving on, I'm very much thankful, first of all, for this invitation, this lovely invitation. Nothing could have been better than to listen to these voices of, thank yous and keynotes and plenaries and conference and, introducing a conference theme, etc. Because these are some voices we had lost in the cacophony of the pandemic crisis. So it's definitely music to my ears. And I am grateful to this college and Alpha Academy, Dr. Vijay Kumar, Professor, and Dr. S. Bashir Ahmed, Principal and HOD of this college, and Professor S.A. Sheikh Mohammed, Vice Principal, and the convener of this program, Dr. Mohammed, and all those speakers who have spoken before me, and the brilliant introduction that has been placed on the table, which has definitely minimized a lot of my task, that I don't have to repeat all those things. So it is indeed a very, very happy occasion for me to join you people through this virtual medium, and to be able to share my ignorance on this topic, I should say the least. So as the topic is indeed very interesting, cultural representations in 21st century, and I really appreciate the long standing that your department has in this field of research, because most of the departments of English literatures and all traditional departments are now evolving into departments of culture studies. Later or sooner, we all have to accept and embrace this reality that we are now no more just the progenies of Shakespeare. We are also the carriers of cultures and the cultural messages of our part of the world, wherever we are. And that way, your department is definitely an embodiment of a very good example of that nature. So I congratulate for the wonderful research that is going on in your department and your college, and the way you have taken up cultural studies very seriously and as a field of research. As has been indicated in a very brilliant and a very pervasive introduction to this theme before me, we can see how cultural studies have evolved over the century, especially the last century. It has become a consolidated field of studies like never before. Culture has existed always, but studying culture as a paradigm of research, as a pedagogical field, and as a university discipline has definitely happened like never before in the last century. And there are various reasons for it, because we could not have ignored the way we were producing cultural metaphors and looking at the fast changes in the world around us, post-industrial world, then the post-World War worlds, and the post-modern worlds, post-colonial worlds, all these situations, and with the very, very very widespread impact of education, access to education, emergence of universities and colleges all over the world. This had to happen, that culture studies had to emerge as a field of very, very important paradigm of studies. Now, I have a very small PowerPoint. It's just to place on some very crucial points. I'm not trying to create any theorization and all. You see, I always try to look at culture, and I always try to, in fact, express myself in the language which is possible to be shared with those who are not well versed in the jargon. And my target always is to address all those newcomers who are always there. And from there I begin and I take up whatever is to be offered. So what has been already discussed, how has studying culture evolved in the past, and which has been some of the major points like post-colonialism, postmodernism, cultural materialism in England, and new historicism in the America, multiculturalism, and of course neoliberalism. So these intellectual movements, these cultural movements, if we can call them, and these academic movements have created different kinds of stopovers in the cultural studies. So if we map out the cultural studies of last 100 years, all these things cannot be ignored. All these words cannot be ignored. And each one has its own connect with the culture. If you look at post-coloniality connects with culture in a way of especially, essentially, I'm talking of the essential levels, at the level of the protest, the language of protest and the metaphors of protest that post-colonialism has provided to culture have created a very vibrant system of interconnectedness across the globe, especially among the colonies which were ruled by most of the imperial powers of European countries. And similarly, when we look at postmodernism, in which I'm assuming modernism is part of it, modernism and postmodernism, when these paradigms are objectively viewed, because we have the privilege of looking back and now looking back at them as some happenings, as some point of departures. So we can see that what kind of artistic outbursts were there on the world map of creativity, on the world map of aesthetics, that it had to be consolidated as some kind of cultural terms, as some kind of cultural umbrella. And that was modernism and postmodernism, which are essentially cultural movements. And these cultural movements have ushered us into the reading of literatures, into the reading of social sciences, and into the readings of so many other disciplines around us. So it is indeed a very, very important thing that, the last century has been dominated by the culturalists. In that, a linguist is a culturalist, an anthropologist is a culturalist, and we have seen the dominance of these people at some or the other level, and they have ushered us into the social scientific era where we cannot ignore the coexistence of economics with music, or commerce with painting, and policy planning with advertisement. So this kind of interconnectedness, this kind of wiring up of all possible ventures has been possible only because of this very important fact that, unlike before, unlike in the post-industrial period, unlike the early modern period, let us say the 19th century, unlike that period, we were being ushered into understanding the world around us through social sciences and through culturalists. So that indeed is the reason that today culture is such an important capital, such an important paradigm for research, for discussion of all kinds that exist around us. So this is one very important thing. And of course, new historicism, multiculturalism, neoliberalism. Why have we shifted to this ismic rationalizing of the culturality? It is because of this particular aspect that culture cannot be ignored just as something very benign, something as very sublime, which should exist only in an ivory tower, and which need not be discussed on the table of assessment, on the table of critiques, on the table of discussion. And we cannot, actually produce very rationalistic critique of culture. This is something now a thing of bygone eras. Having said that, if I move on to talk about something else at this point, is that we have this tendency, if I let me just present this another aspect, I'll come back to these things. These things, I'm connecting these dots here in my discussion. And what I want to say is that when we talk of culture, we generally, translate it into our own languages, vernacular languages, Hindi or Urdu or Malayalam, Tamil, or whatever language we speak. We are always trying to say one thing, and that is that this is my culture. We are proudly part of a culture. There is never a kind of a feel of, inferiority or, feeling ashamed or embarrassed of something. Let me just put it in my language, just to give you the feel. Ye hamari sanskriti hai. Ye hamara culture hai. And a very important statement is, ye hamara culture nahi hai. That nahi is a very important point, and my today's discussion is about contesting that nahi space, because what we do try to say all the time is that we try to assert that this is my culture and that is not my culture, because we try to differentiate between good and bad culture. There is something good and bad. There is a binary. discussion of binaries have taken place in structuralism, in post-structuralism, in so many ways. So we cannot negate, that thing, that good and bad culture exists. And we are all the time trying to validate our culture only by one process. And that process is by saying that this is not my culture. So in order to, problematize the topic of today's conference, I'm not just going to talk about the different kinds of very obvious possibilities that will come up in the proceedings today and in other conferences, in other discussions about culture. I would rather like to talk about, what is our attachment, what is our relationship with culture, and how do we handle the cultural capital in the terms of its baggage and in the terms of its representation. Because I'm taking the word representation not just as a noun here, but I'm also taking it as the name of a process, that how does this process happen? How does this representation take place? Look at 21st century. Digital revolution, internet, mobile phones, OTT platforms, dish TV networks, social media, as in we have so many kinds of platforms, TikTok or YouTube and this and that. Then you have mobile photography, videography, ebooks, blog writing, Facebook, Instagram Reels, Instagram Stories, Twitter, taking selfies and live streaming, and of course a conference like this that we are conducting right now. Now, all these are definitely going to become and have already become very, very powerful vehicles to take forward the cultural paradigms of 21st century. But what are those cultural paradigms? In fact, these are also culture themselves. These are culture themselves. They represent what we are. First of all, our love with technology, our comfort with technology, the normalizing of the technological presence in our lives. So much so that when we are worshipping, we have a mobile phone in one hand. So much so that when we are eating or there's a newborn baby, the first thing that we do is we take a picture, a selfie. Imagine taking a photograph 50 years back, where it was an occasion for the whole family, but now it's just a moment of so personal space that, lying in your bed, you can take 100 photographs and, you can put them on Facebook or whatever. So it's an outburst of technological interventions that has impacted our culture like never before. And any discussion of culture is going to engage with these kinds of things in a very, very powerful manner, in a very absorbed manner, so much absorbed that we will not be able to even differentiate that are we really discussing technology, or are we really discussing culture? This is one thing. Now, I will come back to that point, the question that I just now raised. I questioned the innocence of culture. I questioned the politics of the representation that is there, that is present. These are the questions. Why does culture represent only what is good and correct? As in, represent means we believe that my culture is good, my culture is correct. Why do we always say it's not our culture? This is not our culture. Can we define what does our culture represent without actually knowing what is our culture? And this is a question that will definitely offend most of us, that how do you say that I don't know my culture? I'm a product of my culture. I'm a product of my language. How do you say that I don't know my culture? Now, I'm not talking of, have you read some books, or do you wear a sari, or, can you really sing a particular song, or can you really participate in some rituals? No, these are not what I'm questioning. I'm questioning something else, that are you really aware of the representation politics that happens in culture? Is it not something very, very political? Is it not something very, very clever that we need to know about? Because there is a lot of secrecy as far as culture is concerned. There's a lot of brushing under the carpet as far as culture is concerned. And there is a lot of denial as far as culture is concerned. And that is the reason when something crops up, which we think is shocking, which we think is something not our culture, because our culture does not have space for anything wrong. Then where are the wrong cultures of the world? which is that part of the world where only bad cultures or bad habits or bad things are propagated. No place is there. But where do these things come from? Who is supporting them? These are some kind of things which we should question if we are a researcher in cultural studies, because taking culture only as a capital of just propagating propaganda and just to think it as only apolitical and just to think it only as a benign power and just to think it as a soft diplomacy or a parallel power, etc., is, I think, undermining the potential damages that culture can always do to any civilization and to any human institution. This is a very important quotation by Edward Hall. Culture hides much more than it reveals. What it hides most effectively from its own participants. If there is any problem with a culture, with a particular cultural tradition, I would know about it if only I do not belong to that cultural tradition. That's something, very strange. It's the participants of that culture who are the most ignorant about its potential harms, about its potential damages, and about its realities, which the others know. So the problem is that when we say that the so-and-so is telling me that this is a problem in my culture, he is actually offending me. And we cannot be offended. Feelings get hurt, sentiments get hurt. भावनाओं को ठेस पहुंच जाती है. So this is something that, we have never started introspecting. We have introspected to a certain point our religions. We have introspected other institutions, but we have not introspected the word called culture in its totality and to understand that what does it represent? Who decides what is my culture and what is going to be its representation power? What are the major symbols of culture? Now you open some websites of a particular culture, of a particular region, and you try to find out that what are the cultural representation, cultural artifacts or cultural symbols of a particular community or a particular region. You will find it sounds so hunky-dory, it's so beautiful. Festivals, colors, holidays, food, dresses, dances. Don't you think that it is too simple an equation? Should we not question this as simplistic mapping of culture? I think it's a very simplistic mapping of culture. And since all of us need that kind of, very positive and a pink picture and a very glorious picture, therefore we all believe in that. We never address the way we have addressed many other things. In our world, in our modern world, in our contemporary world, we do not question those. Now, looking at cultural representations in 21st century, I believe I must be running out of time. I'm just trying to stick to the time. Yes, this is going to be my last point. So these are some of the, well, actually, just to supply some, some of the points to the topic that we have today. The representations are so many, and since we are discussing in the context of English literature studies and literature studies, so I have tried to, look at in our literature writing, our literary skills, our aesthetics are very much defined these days by the 160 character space that is available in an SMS box or a Twitter writing pad or Instagram story, where you have to write small things, where you have to write brief, where you have to express in the lowest possible number of characters. So that is something, defining. It's a very important cultural representation because we began from brevity, we bursted into the Victorian novels of multiple pages and hundreds and thousands of pages, and now we have come down to this point where we are condensing our stories, our feelings in the words that are possible only to to be expressed in a particular medium. So earlier, when paper printing was available, it was we who decided that how much I will speak. But now it is a gadget which is deciding that how much can I speak because it has only this much space. Well, of course, it can be contested in a very technological way, but let us look at it in a very specific way, what I'm trying to say. So that is one thing. So reading culture has evolved because of that. We need to really do a lot of research in the purchase of books, and let us collaborate with the booksellers and see how many books are being purchased and what kind of reading is being done, because everything now is being replaced by visuals. Writing has been lost. I'm not saying it is in a very, very profound way, but it has begun. We now try to come back to those monolithic words or monolithic signs, which we very proudly call smileys. Now, smileys are just those signs which the very early man, just scribbled on the caves to express their feelings because they did not have language. And today we are using those same smileys because we don't want to use words. So this shift to visuals rather than to the linguistic space or the linguistic negotiations is very interesting representation of 21st century culture. Now, the themes that are going to become, and I really see that there's a lot of potential in the coming years where we'll see that technology will be a culture, and technology is now considered to be a medium, but I really believe that it is going to be a cultural power in years to come. And a very specific neoliberal individuality where, we have been talking about identities of, communities, regions, religions, languages, but now, it's about me and my gadget and whatever I have to do with my gadget and whatever I have to speak through my gadget. And that is a very specific kind of normalizing of violence. I'm not talking about violence of murder, violence like rapes, or violence like killings, violence like wars, but violence of deviating from what we were for a long, long time. And in no time we have deviated, and that is going to, perpetuate a violence of that kind, which Huxley had earlier predicted in his essays like Pleasures. And dependence on artificial intelligence is going to be a hallmark of the years to come, and representing culture and deciding the cultural power in the decades to come. So the final question that I have to put on board is that, are there any secrets between you and your culture? Means your culture is keeping something secret from you. Find them. You represent your culture, or it represents you in a way that you never knew of. Let us try to revisit our culture and try to find out where are the problems. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am, for the profound speech and for taking us through different representations of culture. We have mapped a deeply nuanced cultural picture that people represent from different walks of life. I now request Professor Burhanuddin Dalvi to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Farutullah. I hope I'm audible, clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm just, yeah. So even amidst this high stress and pandemic situation, it was indeed very graceful of Professor Vibha Sharma to have accepted our call and to have given such an elaborate talk on the point of our research and the point of our conference, cultural aspects. Ma'am, you have packed so much in less than 20 minutes. We are grateful to you. You have covered so many aspects, culture as dynamic, culture as something. What is culture? You should show your culture. You should develop your culture. It's especially very relevant in, at least in our country now, the kind of conflicts we are seeing. Culture as a point of conflict. Thank you, ma'am. It was an excellent speech. And
Thank you very much.
I would like to formally thank the people involved in this mega project. I would like to thank our parent body, the managing committee members, the chairman, the honorary secretary and correspondent, and also the treasurer. I'd like to thank them for giving us the support, whatever support we need. They have given us that, and I would like to thank our dynamic principal for supporting us in everything we wish to undertake. Whatever effort we want to do, he backs us up. There is never any hesitation on his part. I would like to thank the Vice Principal, Sheikh Muhammad, and who has been spearheading this conference. And especially, I would like to thank Dr. Sadiqul Amin. He has been the man behind the show. He has been taking so much efforts, everything online, okay, without seeing anybody. And we are seeing only people on online. And see, so that is something. It includes a lot of technical expertise, and Sadiqul Amin has shown that, and of course his team members, other young team members. Forgive me if I have not mentioned by name everyone. It will save some time, and I would like to thank our head in charge, Professor Sarmad Ahmad, who is also been spearheading this department and in a dynamic manner. I would like to thank all the faculty members who has helped in some way or the other. Even it's maybe a small help, but it goes a long way in this kind of unusual conference. And I would like to thank all the people who have come for this conference online, paper presenters who are ready to do this in the next session. And I would like, if I have omitted somebody, please bear with me. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all.
Thank you, Delvi sir.